Alright, the stream is now live. Back to it. I am trying to make some cool lightning-ish effect. I'm trying to copy this tutorial, but sadly...
Testing mesh. Turn off the mesh colors just in case. And turn on
Actually doesn't
align
know.
with direction.
Interesting.
So
I guess this is an old tutorial.
normal
2 years?
mesh.
No, surely things out there.
In
Anyway,
fact, we need to look
I'm trying to
at
make like
four
something like
parts.
this, which looks very cool.
A lightning texture. As always, you can find all the source
But
files.
sadly, there are
in
no
the
source
description.
files in the description,
So
so
for this effect, we need to
we
look
have to
at
make it
four
from scratch. Just do it by eye, as we all want to. So I've got a little texture here, a little tileable lightning texture, little bolt. If I save that and I want to give it a stroke, but I don't actually know how to use GIMP. How do I add layer stroke? Come on, ChatGPT, don't be useless. Right click your layer in the layers panel, alpha to selection. Interesting. Edit. I'm gonna make a new layer just in case. Edit. Stroke selection. Interesting. Okay. I want it to be a gradient stroke. I want a you might need a plug-in. Oh, do I like GIMP? Turn the selection to just a border. This makes a ring around the object. New layer. This is where ChatGPT doesn't help, because it always tries to give an approximation of an answer, even if there is no answer. I feel like GIMP doesn't have this capability. Yeah, it doesn't really work, sadly. Oh, that might work. If I do a stroke and then a Gaussian blur. Or I just do what this person did and use Photop for it, because why not? You can just export this as a thing. Is there a delete button? Yes. GIMP is cool, but yeah, it does have a lot of issues. Gradient stroke. It just seems very limited, you know. I bet I could do it in Affinity Photo. Affinity Photo was nice. Yeah, I don't think there's any other way to do it. Edit stroke selection. Alt selection, new layer. Edit stroke selection. Oh, that's a group. That's a group, not a layer. Edit stroke selection. Foreground color, background color pattern, paint tool. think it's possible, sadly. Ah, annoying, very annoying. Alright, maybe I just try and do it in Photopea. Black. Where's the fill tool? It's got to be here somewhere. I'm blind. I'm blind. One of these is the fill tool. Someone scream at me. When in doubt. So I don't know if I can press edit fill. It is the same thing. Interesting. Shift F5, black. New, we lock this. That was already locked. New layer. And let's create a little bolt effect. They do something here. I'm just following this along.
Preview, so we can see the type.
Pattern preview. Where's that file menu?
Create a new image, 512 by 256. Make the background black. Turn on pattern preview, so we can.
Okay, so now if we go to brush. Interesting, okay, doesn't look too bad. Maybe a bit more jagged. I think that's a bit too repeating. That's not too bad.
On a new layer, draw a zigzagging line.
Actually, that's a better way.
Erase parts of it. Now with layer styles, we will create a distance field effect.
Can I do this actually?
With the gradient around and within the texture that our shader will use. Turn on stroke. Set it to gradient. Make sure blend mode is set to normal.
Just
set the gradient from black to gray. And the style to shape burst. Duplicate the stroke style by clicking the little plus. Reverse the gradient. Set the position to inside. This time setting the gradient from white to gray.
That's not too bad.
And adjust the size so it covers the inside of the lightning zigzag.
I'm trying to copy it pretty closely, but I obviously don't want to just make a duplicate. Well, I mean, maybe I do. Hers is a bit more flowy. She just
erase parts of it.
She has like a few like
now
random
with layer
dots as well.
styles, we will create a distance field effect, which is a gradient around and with.
And then she just like brushes away here and there. Could have even just used the texture I made, to be honest. That's not too bad. Just for this step.
In the texture that our shader will use.
Big stroke.
Setting the gradient. Make sure the blend mode is set.
Gradient from black to white. BRB while I spit out this weird mouth teeth whitening stuff. copy. Also, it occurs to me that I can kind of make a tutorial out of this. Is that good etiquette? I'm copying someone else's tutorial, but also their tutorial no longer works because there's no source files. And it is like, it's not like, oh, here's the source files if you're lazy. The script is in the source files, so you actually can't make this anymore. So I guess it's not really copying the tutorial because I'm doing my own version. Like when I made that fireball based on Gabriel FX one, he had like a paid tutorial, and I was like, oh, I don't want to pay. So I just saw the thing, and I made my own version, which looked very similar. It's a nice effect, and I did use some of his things in it. Oh, my teeth, they look very white now. They used to be yellow as hell. The whitening is working, although they definitely look whiter in this than they do in real life. Anyway, or I've got weird teeth dysmorphia. I'm gonna grab some water quickly.
brought some tiny carrots, and because I was like, ooh, munchies, I can eat those. And I just pulled out this one. This is a nub. This is tiny. This is like, I don't know. It looks like a turnip than a carrot. What are you doing, buddy? I mean, I like small things, so it's kind of cool, but like, it's more like a fiddle object than a carrot. Turn into a pumpkin. Yes, I suppose you can carve. Pumpkin carve. I never did.
Alright, we have returned. I decided to maybe record this as a tutorial, so I will be doing it thing style. Actually, I have to pause my music, or put my headphones in, or pause my music. Alright, back again with another tutorial. I'm doing this while streaming, so it might be a bit weird. There's not going to be multiple takes. Making this lightning effect that you see now. So we're going to start off in Photopea, which is a Photoshop clone. I haven't retorrented Photoshop yet, so I'm just going to be using this. New project 512 by 256. And we'll set the background to black. It also occurs to me that I don't know how to set this background to black. So Shift F5, black, boom. I'm gonna lock that down. It's already locked. We'll make a new layer, and we'll just go in it with the white brush. If I can find the brush tool. Yep. Before we do that, we're gonna go View, Pattern Preview, so we can kind of match it up, so like that. Make it like a vague lightning bolt shape. That's a bit rubbish. That's not amazing, but it's fine. And you can add a bit like some stuff here and there just for a bit of effect. And then we'll go into the eraser and just cut out bits that you want to add a bit of variation on. So I'll do that for a sec. And I can close this now that I've paused my recording. And let me make sure I'm following this tutorial nicely. She adds a stroke. Double click. Stroke. Adds a gradient from black to grey.
Normal. Set the gradient from black to grey. And the style to shape burst.
Shape burst.
Duplicate the stroke style by clicking the little plus. Reverse the gradient. Set the position to inside.
Alright, well let's try and do that. And hopefully not waste too much time. So once you've got a shape you like, we're going to double click it and click stroke. And make sure it's set to gradient, normal, outside, blah blah blah. And we're going to set it from black to grey. So from there to say there. It doesn't look nearly the same. Okay, so linear goes left to right. And so it's not just going left to right, we're going to set this to shape burst. So now you'll see it comes out like that. Is that the only one I want? Just making sure I've got it all right.
This time setting the gradient from white to grey. And adjust the size so it covers the inside of the lightning zigzag. Duplicate the
It does
stroke
black to
style by
white.
clicking the little plus. Reverse.
I don't think the angle matters, is it? No.
Reverse the gradient.
Size 43. And we'll increase the size as well. I don't want it going too far actually, because I don't want it to go over the edge that way. Maybe I should just make a better shape, to be honest. But it's fine, it's fine. Should you have it 43? That is quite a lot.
Set the position.
Also, it's not looping. That's weird. Why does that not loop?
To inside. This time setting the gradient from white to grey, and adjust the size so it covers the inside of the lightning zigzag. The texture might look a little bit weird, but it'll make more sense in the next part, which is the shader. Instead of going line by line, I'm just giving a rough overview here, but the shader code linked in the description has comments, and the shader graph will have groups describing what parts of them do, if you want more information. So the shader will sample the lightning texture like normal. Then to create a cutoff, we step the lightning texture with a slider.
So if I go
The slider is just here for demonstration purposes. In the actual shader, it is driven by custom particle data.
And now it looks
we will
okay.
get to that later. So the gradient stroke layer style of
maybe
the
I
texture
just
is now giving us sort of a
some of this
dissolving
stuff.
effect. Next step, we add in color by sampling a vertical gradient texture on the lightning texture.
And then we go back into it. View, pan, preview. Is that the reason it was doing it? If I double click this again, stroke. Yeah, that seems to mess it up. OBS. Before we do this, actually, we're going to turn off pattern preview because it kind of makes it look. It like blurs the other side and doesn't loop properly. So we're just going to turn that off and then go pattern preview. And then go stroke, sorry. So I'll bump that up to around there. It does kind of interfere with itself, but it's fine. And then we're going to duplicate this with the plus, press reverse. We're going to say inside this time. And we're going to change it from white to grey or grey to white. Maybe that works, white to grey. So now it kind of like, you know, picks up and just a gradient down kind of thing. I am wondering if I want these little side bits. Maybe they do look a bit strange, but we can always get rid of them afterwards, you know. I think we can just erase them like that, and it'll take off the whole thing. Ooh. So I press save. I'm using Photopea, so it just makes a new file, but that's okay. We'll just go into Unity next. With well, let me export it first. So file, save as, or export as, PNG, save, and now we have a bolt PNG. So now this is the part I have to figure out, sadly.
Start bright, and while it's fading, go further into the gradient. Now to make it feel a bit more dynamic, just scroll the lightning texture a little on the X.
Okay, let's figure this out.
To make the effect look more 3D, let's make a custom particle mesh. I created a sphere, selected. So
in Unity, we're going to just create shaders, materials, effects, attacks, bolt, effects. I've not organised this at all. Like, do I just want to put flame over the effects here? Shade lightning bolts. It's just another lightning bolt. It's not really an attack. It's a weird thing to say. I'll say electric fade. I'll just say electric. Shade underscore electric. Ugh. It's weird, it's terrible. So we'll say, I keep having to go over here and make sure I'm recording properly. So we're just going to create a new material or shader graph, I should say. Shader graph, URP, and shader graph, and we can just call it shader underscore electric, which is terrible because I already have like a lightning bolt shader graph, but it's fine. So let's just add in the sample texture 2D, and we'll add the texture that we just brought in from the Photopea. Where's Photopea? So if I go assets, art, effects, And I'll just drag it here. Bolt, PNG. Oh, nope, nope. There we go. Okay, let's figure this out, shall we? Maybe I want to move this on the right screen, and then I'll do the tutorial in a second. So, if I create a new, I'll just make a plane. That's fine. Sure, why not? Just make it. Doesn't need to be massive. So we've got a little plane here. We're going to go back to our electric FX electricity mesh. We'll slap on there. Is that on there? If I just sample that, does that work? Okay, so we have our little effect there. So we've just plugged it in here, and obviously you could make this a what's it called? A texture 2D. Main texture. And you could pass it in here instead. That might be better. Gives you a bit more customization, and you can still just set it by default just so it's easy to use. And I've just plugged that into the fragment, the base color, and yeah, now we have this. So we have to make a shader that will basically fade it in and out. So we're going to want to use alpha clipping to just, based on a slider, just say how much of the bolt is showing basically. 4-minute tutorial so far. That's not terrible. It's not terrible. God knows how much I've streamed. I do miss my music. Maybe I just play it and then. See, it picks up quite a bit. Maybe I put my headphones in and then turn that off. Or you ignore it. We go hard. Also, I could be running my bean right now. What am I doing? I'm crazy. Someone's sending me more Demon Slayer memes. They're always racist. Every single. Why the Insta memes? Let me turn my bean on so I'm not distracted by Insta. You can get a new building now for like 1,000, which is crazy. Start. Okay, go on, Bean. Do your work, Bean. Do your work. How are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? I mean, my mind goes to like just turn on alpha clipping, graph settings, transparent, alpha. Excuse me. Blending mode additive, I think. Right phase both. Support VFX graph, yeah. And then alpha clipping. Or you even don't want alpha clipping? I just want alpha. Surely if I just multiply this by a slider and I get like a float in here, call that let's call it strength because I don't know how to spell opacity. This will be a slider from 0 to 1. This won't work, will it? That'll just fade the entire thing. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Plane. I need to make a material from this. Create material. Create material? That's weird. Matte electric. And then we'll slap that on there. Yeah, that just fades the whole thing. There is a step, but I don't know how to use the step. How do I use the step? Let's experiment, shall we? Okay, that's some crazy shit. Can I just put a float in there? Okay. Oh, actually, no, that looks alright. In a way. In a very weird way, that looks alright. What if I switch these around? That looks more like it. So what if I do something like between 0 and where does it vanish? 0 and 0.3. And then I do that times this multiplied by this. How does that look? It's kind of what I'm looking for, maybe, but also like it's a bit hard. Is there like a way to round it? There's definitely a better way to do this. Give me a sec. What if I ChatGPT it? Come on, ChatGPT, I'm making a lightning shader. I have a gradient. I have a gradient I want to come in. Darker values vanish with a slider using a step mode, but the edges are too harsh. Sharp. Smooth step apparently is what I want. Smooth step instead of just step. That makes sense. Smooth step in, and then, oh god, I don't know, edge. Edge 1. Why is this? Why does this say strength 1? It's weird. Okay, so that does seem to work a little bit. I think that works, right? Am I crazy? If I just say 0.3 on all these, and then I can just bring this up and down. I don't know. I feel like that works. Let's play. And also, I think I can just put this straight into the output. I don't think I need to multiply it by anything. I mean, that looks right to me. I don't know if I like the dots. I'm gonna get rid of the dots. The dots are weird to me. So we're gonna just erase the dots. Oh, that is a bloop, bloop, bloop. File, export as PNG. can put this back here instead. Dun, 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 dun. Bolt. Show Explorer. Delete. Move. That should now update it, yep. Okay, so this is what I'm looking for the first step at least. I think that's fine. I think that's fine, maybe. Doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look too bad. I should probably delete this first. Alright, back to the tutorial where this was just here. We'll do it step by step. Back to it. Okay, so the first step is to make it so this can come in, if that makes sense, by dropping off the lower values. And we're going to do that with a smooth step. A step is a bit too harsh, we're going to use a smooth step and output that instead. And this is going to work by taking in a value for the opacity. I'm just going to say strength. And we'll make this a slider between 0 and 0.3, I think is the value I settled on. And then we're going to make this the max value as well. Just leave that in there. 3. And now if we save that, it'll look the same. But as soon as we apply it, which we can do by making a new material here, because we want to change that value now, we should call it matte electric. Now if we change the material electric, you'll see it come in like that. See? Perfect. Save for that little dot at the end. Or is that? I can't tell if that's part of the material or not. Yeah, it is. So maybe we need to up it to like 0.4 or something, but it shouldn't be too hard to deal with. Also, I got rid of the weird dots. They weren't, they looked kind of strange. But yeah, you can just tweak these values. The next step is to make it pan just a little bit, just to add some variation to it. We can just do that here with the UV. So make another one and say scroll speed, and create a time node. We'll multiply that time by the scroll speed. Make it default, I don't know, 0.1, just see how it goes at first. We don't want it at 0, obviously. And then we'll push this into a tiling and offset. We'll put it into the offset, so we're tiling and offset, and then we'll put that here. And we want this to not go in both directions because we want this to be a vector 2. So vector 2, and we only want it to go in one direction. So we'll pass this into here. And yeah, it's not looking too bad. It is a bit noticeable as a tile scene there, so we can maybe try and clean that up at a slightly later date, but for now it's not too big of a deal. So we've got a little bit of scrolling there, not too much because it's just going to move and appear on its own anyway. Right, so this is looking somewhat okay. We're going to obviously multiply it by colour, but what else are we going to do to it? That's the question. The problem is you need like a mesh to apply it to, really. But I guess just for the sake of the tutorial, I don't need to worry about that. This is just for my shock effect, which I will get to at some point. So you got a multiplier thing. What else have we got? What else have we got?
Shader, it is driven by custom particle data, but we will get to that later.
So she does like she actually does a hard step. Interesting. So she doesn't do smooth step.
Layer style actual sample the lightning texture like normal. Then to create a cutoff, we step the lightning texture with a slider. This slider is just here for demonstration purposes.
So she just does step. She doesn't actually do
the actual shader
smooth
is driven by custom particle texture with the shader graph. If you want more, the shader will sample the lightning texture like normal. Then to create a
So maybe like a maybe like a seal before this, because I can't just use step, because then that just applies to the alpha. Actually, no. Well, that's like a multiplier. What if I just do a step? Step in, and then the edge is the strength. Yeah, I'll put that. From 0.1 to 0.4, maybe we change it. 0.1 to 4. Let's see how that looks. Save. He's like 0.31 really. Doesn't need that much strength. 0.31. See, that makes for a bad tutorial if I'm just like, actually I did this instead. Also, it kind of has artifacts at the edges, you know, which I don't know how I feel about. If I multiply that by colour, will it look weird? If I add a colour in here, and I say, hey, multiply A by B, HDR. Yeah, sometimes add a bit of artifacts at the edge, but not so much that I care a lot, maybe a little bit. How the edge of the step is multicolored, can I fix? Gradient is in grayscale. It is grayscale. What? But it is grayscale, right? It shouldn't make a difference if I do this. Apparently it does. Why is it? What? That's weird. No. What? Yeah, that's very weird. Interesting. Alright, I'll redo this part of the tutorial again, just so it looks a bit better. So you can keep the tiling and offset part. Just move this off to the side. Wait there like it didn't happen. The hazards of learning and doing it at the same time. Back to recording. Alright, so we've got our little material there. I've just right-clicked this to add a material so we can add some properties. So now we've got a strength. We've got a strength float and a scroll speed float, just by pressing add float. The strength I've turned into a slider from 0.1 to 0.31. These are just my effects. I'll also make a colour one while I'm here. With the British spelling, God save the king. We'll set it to HDR and just give it a default colour of like around blue, something like that, with the +2 intensity. That's okay. So as we said, we want to bring it in, and how we're going to do that is by adding a step. So we go step in, and then we can throw the strength here. Nope, I replaced the N for the strength here. We'll output that instead. So now if we change the strength, you'll be able to see that it kind of brings it in with a harsher edge. I'm actually going to bring it in just from the red, because you'll see that it's kind of got like little color artifacts on the edge for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why, because I feel like it's grayscale, it shouldn't do, but this, you know, clears it up anyway. So we'll just take it in from the red channel, or any of the channels, just to get one of them. So we'll save that, and you'll see that now if we change this value, kind of brings it away and it dissolves quite nicely. So we've got a nice little dissolve effect there. We're also going to add some scrolling, so I'll do that now. And that's why we'll slice in the scrolling part. Apologies, the editing's weird. I'll just add the scrolling actually. So to do that, we're just going to get a time node. I'm going to multiply this by our scroll speed, which I've just set to 0.1. And we're going to get a vector 2 node, because we only want it to do it on the x-axis, not the y-axis. We'll keep y at 0. And then we'll feed all this into a tiling and offset. And we'll plug that in. And now we have a scroll speed as well. I think 0.1's fine, doesn't need to be too much. And we can just also multiply this by the color while we're here. So multiply A by the color. We don't need to turn up the alpha, it doesn't actually do anything, but it's fine. And if we save that, it should now, output into the alpha. It should now show us a nice little blue glow, so that's more lightningy, as you see, and then it kind of fizzles away. So we've already got quite a nice effect there. The next step is to kind of apply it to an actual texture. Oop, I almost press stop recording there, that would have been awkward. So that's, I'm pretty sure, what she's got. I don't know what she's done though. Because like when she,
so it covers the inside of,
she's got like shader code, like actual code shader. I think, unless this is just the compiled version of the shader, I don't think it is. So I don't know why she's done this. Must be losing my mind. Her works are beyond me. Why is it always say Spotify distracting me? No, Spotify never distracts me. Spotify's great. Well, it's average and incredibly overpriced, but it's not distracting. So yeah, they have this, but for the life of me, I can't tell why. They got like gradient and stretch and stuff. They got all kinds of stuff.
The description has comments, and the shader graph will have
custom data from particle system. Custom data from particle system. It's just a lot of stuff, really.
Parts of them do.
Apply fog color, and then yeah, like look at this. The hell? Why is it so intense? Random offset. Moving UV particle texture.
If you want more information.
Gradient map. They got so much stuff.
So the shader will sample the lighting texture like normal. Then to create a cutoff, we step the lighting texture with a slider. The slider is just here for demonstration purposes. In the actual shader,
I got there, and I just multiplied it by color.
So the gradient stroke layer styling the texture is now giving us sort of a dissolving effect. Next step, we add in color by sampling a vertical gradient texture on the lighting texture.
Okay, so she has a gradient texture. I don't know if I want that.
Then subtract the slider so the lighting will start bright, and while it's fading, go further into the gradient. Now to make it feel a bit...
I mean, surely, and I may be crazy here, you could just do the same thing by multiplying it by the original value. Well, is that crazy? If I just add a multiply here. Is that not the same thing? I mean, to me that looks roughly the same. You could even do this this multiplied by the slider. I don't know if that made a difference. I was thinking that when the slider goes down, it should be 1 minus actually, shouldn't it? It should be like 1 minus this times multiply it by like 3.3 or some shit. Will that work? That works. Now it kind of fizzles out a bit more naturally. Let's introduce that, shall we? Some crazy shit though. I'm thinking about how I can mask this shit. If I take a slider from 0 to 1, that'll work, yeah. That was quick. I love figuring stuff out in my head. Makes me feel like a goddamn genius. Where were we? So this was all gone. This was all gone. Oh shit, that's too much gone. Should have already done the entire effect first. I don't know why I'm like this. I can make these unexposed, right? Yeah, I can. maybe I just do the entire effect. Well, this feels like the entire effect now. Do I just record it from scratch? I could do. I could do. Maybe I do. Maybe I do, and I do it super quick. What do we think? I've got nothing but free time. Okay, we're gonna say it as if we just finished making the texture and now we're here. We'll do it from here actually. Alright, I've actually just taken off those little dots because I don't think they look very good. So I've saved it, exported it to my arts folder, and now we're going to make a new effect. We're going to say create shader graph, URP unlit shader graph, and I'm just going to call it shade underscore electric. We're going to make a new plane here just so you have something to see what it looks like on. Just set this to 0.1, zero out, and then we're going to make a new material from this just so we can change the details on it later, and we'll apply it there. So first thing we're going to do is open this up, and we've got our fresh shader graph. We're going to say give us a texture to sample. That's what we just made. Main text is the usual name, and we're going to say bolt, which is the texture we created. Bring that in, sample it, and output it to the base color. So we've got a very simple texture there. See, this is the problem of doing it like this. I actually have to select it here. Alt. Boom, done. So there we go, we have our basic texture. We're just going to change some of the details of the graph around. So we want it to be unlit is fine, surface type we want it to be transparent, alpha mode, or set it to additive, blending mode. We want it to write to both faces in case we see it from the other side. Alpha clipping I think we can leave off, and support the effects graph we will want. So this should now be alpha, yep. And the first thing we want to do, let me just make this a bit larger, is allow it to kind of come in slightly. And what I mean by that is I want the dark edges to just bring up, but not just like fade it. I want to bring it in with like a step. So we'll take the red channel, because if we take all three, sometimes it gets a bit weird. I'll show you that. So if I put this into a step in, and I have a float here just for the strength of how powerful the bolt is. I'll put this here, and I say strength, and we'll just say slider from 0 to 1, and that'll be the strength of the step. We'll see that it brings it in as so. That's what the step function does, but you'll notice that it has kind of a weird colored edge, which it shouldn't have because this image is grayscale. But if you just bring in the red channel, then that goes away, or it should work with any of the channels really, but we'll just use red. So we can now output this, but we don't want to do it from 0 to 1. We actually want a max value of 3.1, and this may change based on your material. So I'll just say strength max, and I'll set this to 3.1. Just sorry, 0.31. And we won't show this in the inspector because I don't actually need it exposed, and we'll divide that by that. So that. Sorry, multiply that by that. So now it will instead go from a scale of 1.3, from 0 to 3.1, and that will work correctly. If I can move this down to make it look less weird. So we'll save that, and now you'll see that the strength goes from 0. We actually probably want it from 0.1 now that I think about it, because 0 looks very strange. So yeah, 0.1 is not as weird, and it dissolves quite nicely. You can even bump up a bit more, maybe like a default value of like 0.25 or 0.3 even. Does that make sense? I feel like you don't want it any bigger than 0.3. We'll set a default value of 0.3. So that looks nice for just a very simple dissolve effect, because we want it to be quite harsh. And the next thing we're going to do is add a bit of scrolling to it, and that should be as easy as adding a scroll speed float, and we'll get a time node, we'll multiply those together, and we'll feed this into a vector 2 because we actually just want this to affect the x, not the y. We don't want it to scroll up and down. And then we'll feed all this into a tiling and offset node. Into the offset, we will put that there, and we can set the default value of the scroll speed to say 0.1. Not 1, 0.1. We want it to be quite subtle. So now we've got a bit of movement there. Next thing to do is to add some color. I can do this easily by saying new color float. We're going to use the British spelling. God save the king. And we're going to say, just make it a nice bluish color as the rest of our lightning stuff is, something like that. We actually want it to be HDR. I'll bring the alpha up even though it doesn't make a difference. And we'll say 3 maybe, but we can always change that in a second. And we will multiply this step by this color. This is a bit simple. We'll change this in a second. You'll see it has a nice glow to it, but we kind of want it to fade out instead of just being like lightning hot like that. So even when it's tiny, it's very, very, you know, on top of things, which isn't ideal. Really, we want it to fade with the actual color. So we'll sample this again here, or we'll just take it out from the same node, and we'll give this a multiply by 1 minus the strength. So at 0 strength, it will be at full. So you'll see that's totally fine. But as the value goes up, it'll go to 0, which makes sense. Or it'll start at 0.3, but obviously it doesn't really matter. You can always just change the intensity at the end. That's the only thing it affects. So if we go multiply A, B, we'll have that. So at the lowest, we want it to be maybe like that bright. Makes sense. Looks like a nice kind of bolt effect. And then as we fade away, you'll see it just kind of starts to fade and fizzle into nothing, which is nice. So that's the effect we've got just for the bolt itself. Now we need to actually turn that into a particle and apply it to our meshes. I think that was pretty clean. God knows. My little bean finished making its socks halfway through. Oh, 240. Oh, my back. No break timer. More socks. More socks. Unless someone's messaged me. I have been messaged. I'm so popular. See what Pinto made. Let's slap the music back on and hope I remember to turn it off when I do the next part of my tutorial, because it'll be really awkward if I don't. I will be sad. Bum, bum. Okay, let's see if I can't further copy this kind lady's tutorial.
More dynamic. To make the effect look more 3D, let's make a custom particle mesh. I created a sphere.
Okay, so she.
The 2 center loops and delete the rest. Deleted some of the bottom faces and moved them around a little.
That's nice. I will be stealing this idea. Okay, so she applies it on this mesh. Interesting.
It will be important, so make sure that the UVs are laid out to the whole square.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The particle system,
See, where's this page?
go all the way to the bottom.
There is no link here. It's lies. It's all lies.
There are 2 lighting meshes attached, and there's the lighting texture and a gradient texture. When importing the lighting texture, make sure that
This does seem very complicated. I feel like I made something similar with a lot less effort. I guess maybe I have a new version of shader graph and stuff that doesn't require all that stuff.
I've already set up a material. When importing the lighting texture, make sure that it is set to import as single channel red. And for the gradient texture, make sure that the red
Oh, that's cool.
is set to clan.
I guess that's what I did, to be fair.
I've already
Just
set
by
up a material
drawing the red channel from it.
using these settings.
If I was clever, I would have a bunch of different channels and make this effect different ways.
Let's create the particle system. First up, in the renderer, add the material we just set up. Then in the base particle settings, set the lifetime to something short, like between 1 and 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to copy this part, but in
On 3D start size,
VFX graph, because I don't know how to do that.
and the Y to between 1 and 2.
But I'll figure it out. I'll make it local on the stuff.
Particles over time to between 1 and 3, and add a burst between 5 and 15 every second with infinite cycles. Render and select your testing mesh. Turn off the mesh colors just in case, and turn on align with direction, so the particle is oriented to the normals of the mesh. Turn on size over
I thought,
lifetime.
why? What's the test mesh?
Start around 0.7 going up to 1. Then we get to the one custom data. Turn it on and set custom multi-vector. We only need one component and turn this X component into a curve. Set it to go up to almost 1 very quickly at the start. In the render, set the particle mode to mesh and select the first the custom.
I feel like there's a lot you can do with the particle system that I never really did.
It will choose randomly between the 2. You can turn off apply active color space. It might give a better color result depending on your setup. And I turn on custom vertex stream so we can use the curve we make on custom data.
I'll just do it with the circle, just one circle.
Add another stream.
So, let's do this shit. Yeah, I do need to create a mesh. I'll open up Blender. Give me a sec. Alright, I am going to pause the stream there and be back after I've started the pan sauce for my steaks. BRB!